So this was a video that I released recently showing gratitude, the last thing my wife and I do in bed. And it was basically just talking about this really powerful method that I've deployed in my own marriage, which is a form of gratitude expression. So you've heard of gratitude journaling. That's when you write down all the things that people have done for you that day that you really appreciate. And that's great. But the problem I found with that activity is the people never hear about it. You keep it internal to yourself. How often really are you going to take a picture of it and send it to your wife or your girlfriend or show it to your family or your friends? Whereas with this method, it involves active effort being put in to tell your wife or to tell your girlfriend 1 to 3 things that she's done that day that really brightened your day. So, for example, last night, when my wife and I got into bed, when the lights are off and we're cuddling, she's resting her head on my chest. I could say, I really appreciate that the breakfast you made for me today was really well done. It was high protein, it was high fat, it tasted really nice, and that gave me the desire, the motivation, the fuel to work really hard. And in turn, she would express gratitude to me. She would say, you sat with me in the evening when we chilled together. And I really appreciated that because, she would say that I work so much and she values the personal time that we spend, even if it's just listening to music or watching a movie. And then somebody left this comment. Do you do this even if you've had an argument that day and are still angry with each other that night? So basically, you do this form of gratitude expression, but what about a day that hasn't been so great? What about a day when you've had an argument, you've had a fight, you're quite resentful towards each other, and you're going to bed? What should you do then? This is a brilliant question, honestly, because I've been contemplating it for a few days ever since I saw this comment. And here's my answer. I'm going to split my answer into two sections: the easy answer and the hard answer. So, the easy answer is yes, you should still express gratitude to each other because gratitude and appreciation are not tied to anything, it is not conditional. You don't say please, thank you, just based on how you feel towards a person. What matters is what have they done, if anything, to warrant you showing this gratitude, to warrant you showing this appreciation. For example, think of a person in your life that you may not really get along with, you may not really like or enjoy their company. But if they held the door open for you, would you still say thank you to them just out of politeness and manners? You would. If you didn't, that would be extremely weird and strange. But this is your wife. This is your girlfriend. So if you would show that common courtesy and respect towards someone you don't even like, why wouldn't you go 10 times further for your soulmate? Now, granted, that day hasn't went great. You could have had an argument. You could have had a fight. Fine. But that doesn't invalidate everything about your wife or your girlfriend. Meaning there's more to your wife and girlfriend than just the negative experience that you've shared with them today. If it wasn't for this negative day, if it wasn't for this negative experience, you would be quite loving towards her, wouldn't you? It's a fact, otherwise, why would you be together? So it's absolutely okay to accept that you've had a negative day. Accept that you've had an argument, a fight, and you're still quite resentful towards each other. And still put in the active effort to show gratitude and appreciation towards her. Meaning, if you got into bed, lights are off, and she's laying on her side, you're laying on your side, and it's quite silent, you're not really talking, you should be the one to have the courage to say, I know today's not been the best of days, but despite that, I still really appreciate you cleaning the house. I still really appreciate you looking after the kids, if you have kids. I still really liked that you cooked a really nice dinner. because it meant that I didn't have to do those things and I could work, I could go to the gym, I could meditate, whatever. What you're doing here is you're not saying to your wife or your girlfriend, I forgive you, because forgiveness is a separate matter. What you're saying to her is, despite us having this shared moment of negativity, I still haven't forgotten the good things that you've done for me. I still pay attention to the hard work that you put in into me. Meaning, I acknowledge that there's parts of you which I would love to change, the parts that cause this fight, this argument. But there is still an overwhelming part of you that I love, that's dedicated to me, that helps me flourish in my life. Similarly, imagine if the tables were turned. Imagine if you got into bed because you've had an argument with your wife and you're being silent, and then your wife says, I know we had a bad day today, but I really appreciate that you took me out so we could buy groceries. I really appreciate that you sat with me when we were eating food, as in you didn't eat by yourself. How would you feel if your wife said that? Granted, you might be a little bit upset at her for whatever argument that you had, but inside, you would feel appreciated. Inside, you will feel valued. What do you think that will do to your connection with her? Specifically, the emotional connection, which is to do with how we understand each other, and your spiritual connection, which is what actions do you take to flourish your partner's life? If anything, you would be inspired and encouraged to do more, wouldn't you? If you've had a bad day, but your wife ends the day by telling you that she's really grateful for your presence, she's really grateful for your hard work, you would be inspired to move on from that argument. And you would be inspired to continue doing those same habits that she values. And the same applies to your wife. If you tell your wife that you value her hard work, even after you've had an argument, she will be a lot more likely to continue being dedicated to you, especially when you guys have an argument. I hope that makes sense. So that's the simple answer. The hard answer involves forgiveness. That's when you can accept that you had this sour moment. You can accept that you had this negative day. But despite this, you use that gratitude expression as an opportunity to move on. So that's you taking one step more. You express gratitude to her. You ask her, can you tell me what you're grateful for? Say if she doesn't voluntarily say it, maybe she's just shy. Maybe she feels a little bit awkward. But if you just push her slightly, she will express gratitude to you, hopefully. And that's when you use this as an opportunity to just say, look, yeah, we had a bad day, but I don't want to have a bad night. I would love for us to move on from this. Now, the reason why this is the hard answer is because it's hard to do. Like, I get it, I'm married. People think that if you get married to your soulmate, it means you never have arguments. That's not true. That's not true at all. Anyone who says that has not been in a relationship, at least with their genuine soulmate. I can tell you right now that when you are with your actual soulmate, if you believe in that, like this person is the one that you were meant to connect with on this earth, you might actually argue more. You might actually have more fights. But the fights will be about little things, not the big things. For example, if you date low quality women and you don't really care about them, you're just looking to date them just for sexual experiences, you won't fight with them day to day, will you? Because you're not bothered. You don't care if she doesn't text you. You don't care if she goes out looking promiscuous because that's why you're dating her. But if she was to disrespect you, say if she said that you're pathetic, she just made fun of you in front of her friends, and you felt humiliated, you would challenge her and you would say, this is unacceptable. Listen, I know we're friends and benefits, but I'm not tolerating this. Goodbye. And you would move on. So you would only have one argument, but it would be so big that it would terminate your relationship with her, right? But in my case, when you're married to like a highly feminine, traditional religious woman who is genuinely my soulmate, You don't have those big fights. My wife would never disrespect me, at least not, routinely. The type of fights and arguments we would have is about who left the door unlocked, who overcooked the food, who didn't collect the post in time, who didn't answer the door in time. Say if we had a delivery and they needed to sign for it, but neither one of us went to the door because we were busy and the postman took it away. Now we're kind of annoyed at each other. So those are the arguments that you tend to have. Small, but frequent. So if you would show so much courtesy towards strangers, why wouldn't you show 10 times more grace to your wife, to your girlfriend? Where in summary, you say, I accept that we had a negative day. Despite this, I'm going to show you that I appreciate the hard work that you do. And because of this, I would now like to move on. As in, I forgive you for the hurt that you caused me. And in turn, I hope you can forgive me for the hurt that I caused to you. And now we can enjoy a brand new day together. If you follow what I say, I can tell you right now that it would flourish your relationship so much. Like, this is how I've managed to become married and develop this relationship where my wife is fully dedicated to me. But it's hard. I understand. I sympathize. But if you do it once, it becomes easier. Good luck.